Most people believe they understand wealth building, yet 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck regardless of income level. Why do intelligent people with good jobs still struggle financially while others quietly accumulate fortunes? What if the real barrier to wealth isn't your salary, your education, or even your savings rate, but a hidden phase that occurs long before money starts growing that nobody talks about? Today, we're exploring the psychological and behavioral foundation that separates those who build lasting wealth from those who remain financially stuck. This isn't about get-rich schemes or investment tips. This is about the invisible transformation that happens in your mind before your money starts working. If you're serious about understanding how wealth really builds and want to join others committed to this long-term journey, subscribe now. We're building a community of thoughtful wealth builders who understand that financial success is fundamentally about psychology, not just mathematics. The first hidden phase begins with a quiet shift in how you see money itself. Most people view money as something you earn, spend, and hopefully save. But before wealth starts growing, you must recognize that money is primarily a reflection of behavior patterns. Your bank account isn't just tracking dollars. It's tracking every decision you make, every habit you maintain, every psychological trigger you respond to. Think about your last financial decision. Did you pause and consider the long-term compound effect, or did you respond automatically? The wealthy think differently about these moments. They understand that money is information about their own behavior patterns. When someone consistently overspends, they're not just losing money. They're reinforcing a pattern that prevents wealth accumulation. This recognition creates an uncomfortable truth. If your financial situation reflects your behavioral patterns, then changing your money means changing yourself. Most people resist this realization because it means taking responsibility rather than blaming external circumstances. Here's where the deeper layer appears. Before wealth grows, you must shift from seeing yourself as someone who works for money to someone who designs systems that generate wealth. This identity change happens gradually, almost imperceptibly. You start questioning assumptions you've never examined before. Why do you automatically assume you need to trade time for money? What if that assumption itself keeps you trapped? The wealthy understand that your relationship with time fundamentally determines your relationship with money. When you believe time equals money, you limit yourself to linear growth. But when you understand that systems and decisions compound over time, wealth becomes inevitable. A small business owner put it best when she described this shift to me. She said she used to think in terms of hourly rates and monthly revenue, but now she focuses on building processes that generate value without her constant involvement. That transition, from time-based thinking to system-based thinking, marked the beginning of her wealth accumulation. But this shift creates psychological discomfort. Your identity feels threatened when you question fundamental assumptions about work and money. Most people retreat to familiar patterns rather than embrace this discomfort. They return to thinking about raises, bonuses, and incremental improvements rather than systematic wealth building. If this way of thinking resonates with you, comment the word system below. I want to know who's building quietly and intentionally. The next pattern changes everything about how you approach financial decisions. Before wealth starts growing, you must understand that every purchase is actually an investment decision. When you buy something, you're not just spending money. You're choosing one form of asset over another. Most people categorize their spending as needs versus wants, but wealthy people think differently. They ask whether each expenditure moves them toward or away from financial independence. A car purchase isn't just transportation. It's a choice between depreciating assets and appreciating investments. A restaurant meal isn't just food. It's resources that could compound over time. This perspective shift feels overwhelming initially. Every financial decision suddenly carries weight because you recognize its long-term implications. But this discomfort signals that you're developing wealth consciousness. Consider how you think about your living situation. Most people see housing as either renting or owning, but wealthy people see housing as one component of their overall asset allocation strategy. They might choose a smaller home in order to invest more aggressively, or they might house hack to generate rental income while building equity. What happens when you start seeing every financial choice as an investment decision? Your spending patterns naturally align with your long-term goals. You don't need rigid budgets or extreme frugality. You make different choices because you understand the true cost of each decision. The third element in this hidden phase involves recognizing that your financial education shapes your financial results more than your income level. Before wealth starts growing, you must become genuinely curious about money rather than just hoping it works out somehow. Most people avoid financial education because they find it boring or intimidating. But wealthy people understand that financial literacy directly translates to financial results. They read about economics, understand market cycles, and stay informed about investment strategies not because they have to, but because they recognize the compound benefits of financial knowledge. This educational phase often feels slow and unrewarding. You're learning concepts that don't immediately increase your income or improve your lifestyle. But this knowledge foundation becomes crucial when opportunities arise. The person who understands market dynamics can recognize undervalued assets. The person who understands tax strategies can keep more of what they earn. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to consistently find great investment opportunities while others struggle to identify them? The difference isn't luck or connections. It's the accumulated knowledge that allows them to recognize value that others miss. And to make this journey effortless, we're building the Trip to Wealth Command Center, a Google Sheets system that brings your income, spending, investing, and net worth together in one place. It's your personal strategy hub designed to expose money leaks, highlight growth opportunities, and show how small decisions compound into real wealth. Join the early access list below and secure a discount as an early supporter. Every wealth system needs a strategy, and this is where yours begins. The fourth transformation happens when you stop seeking security through job stability and start building security through asset accumulation. This psychological shift often creates the most resistance because it challenges everything we're taught about financial safety. Traditional financial advice emphasizes steady employment, regular savings, and conservative investments. But before wealth starts growing, you must understand that true security comes from owning assets that generate income independent of your labor. This doesn't mean quitting your job immediately or taking reckless risks. It means gradually shifting your focus from earning more money to building systems that earn money for you. You start thinking about rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, or business ownership, rather than just salary increases and retirement plans. A teacher I know exemplifies this transition perfectly. She continues teaching because she loves it, but she's systematically building a portfolio of rental properties. Her security no longer depends entirely on her teaching salary or pension plan. She's creating multiple income sources that compound over time. But this shift requires changing your relationship with risk. Most people see investments as risky and jobs as safe, but wealthy people understand that depending entirely on employment income is actually the riskier strategy. When your income depends on one source, you're vulnerable to economic changes, industry disruption, or personal circumstances beyond your control. What changes when you start building income-producing assets? Your relationship with your job becomes healthier. You make better career decisions because you're not driven by desperation or fear. You can negotiate from a position of strength because your financial security doesn't depend entirely on that single income source. The fifth phase involves understanding that wealthy people optimize for different metrics than everyone else. Before wealth starts growing, you must shift from optimizing for comfort to optimizing for growth. Most people make financial decisions based on what feels comfortable or familiar. They choose savings accounts because they feel safe, even though inflation erodes purchasing power. They avoid investments because volatility feels uncomfortable, even though historical data shows long-term growth potential. Wealthy people optimize for different outcomes. They're willing to accept short-term discomfort for long-term compound growth. They understand that avoiding all risk actually creates the biggest risk of all, the risk of not building wealth over time. This optimization shift affects daily decisions in subtle ways. Instead of automatically choosing the most convenient option, you start asking whether each choice moves you toward or away from your long-term goals. Instead of seeking immediate gratification, you develop comfort with delayed rewards. A couple in their 40s recently described how this changed their lifestyle choices. They drive older, reliable cars so they can invest more aggressively. They cook more meals at home so they can fund their investment accounts. These aren't sacrifices to them because they understand the compound effect of these decisions over time. Why do most people struggle with this optimization shift? Because it requires trusting future outcomes more than present comfort. It means believing that systematic wealth building will create more security than immediate consumption. The sixth transformation happens when you develop genuine patience with compound growth rather than seeking quick results. This psychological shift separates people who build lasting wealth from those who chase financial shortcuts. Our culture promotes instant gratification and quick fixes, but wealth building operates on a completely different timeline. Before wealth starts growing consistently, you must develop comfort with slow, steady progress rather than dramatic changes. This patience isn't passive waiting. It's active confidence in systematic approach. You understand that making good decisions consistently over time produces better results than making perfect decisions occasionally. You focus on building habits and systems rather than optimizing individual outcomes. Think about how compound growth actually works. In the early years, results seem almost invisible. You're investing money and seeing modest returns. But over decades, the combination of consistent contributions and compound returns creates exponential growth. Most people quit during the invisible early phase because they don't see dramatic results. A successful investor once told me that the hardest part of building wealth isn't finding good investments or making money. It's staying committed to the process when results aren't obvious yet. The psychological discipline to continue investing during market downturns or maintain systems when progress feels slow determines long-term outcomes more than any individual financial decision. What happens when you develop genuine patience with compound growth? You stop chasing investment fads or get-rich-quick schemes. You focus on building systematic approaches that work over decades rather than strategies that might work over months. The seventh element involves shifting from consumption-based identity to creation-based identity. Before wealth starts growing, you must see yourself as someone who creates value rather than someone who just consumes resources. Most people define themselves through what they buy, where they live, or what they own. But wealthy people define themselves through what they create, build, or contribute. This identity shift changes every aspect of financial behavior. When you see yourself as a creator, spending decisions change naturally. Instead of buying things to project an image, you invest in tools and resources that help you create more value. Instead of seeking status through consumption, you build status through contribution and achievement. This doesn't mean avoiding all consumption or living ascetically. It means aligning your spending with your identity as someone who creates wealth rather than someone who just spends money. You might spend money on education, tools, or experiences that enhance your ability to create value while reducing spending on things that just consume resources without return. Have you noticed how successful entrepreneurs think about purchases differently than employees? They evaluate every expenditure based on whether it helps them create more value or generate more income. This isn't because they're cheap or calculating. It's because they see themselves as wealth creators rather than wealth consumers. The eighth transformation requires understanding that wealthy people think systematically rather than episodically about money. Before wealth starts growing, you must develop systems thinking rather than event-based thinking about financial decisions. Most people approach money through individual events. They think about specific purchases, particular investments, or isolated financial goals. But wealthy people think about money as interconnected systems where each decision affects every other decision over time. This system's perspective changes how you approach budgeting, investing, and financial planning. Instead of treating each area separately, you understand how they work together to create overall financial results. Your spending affects your investing capacity. Your investing affects your future income potential. Your income affects your ability to take calculated risks. A successful business owner explained this beautifully. He said he doesn't just think about individual business decisions, he thinks about how each choice affects his cash flow, which affects his investment capacity, which affects his long-term wealth building, which affects his ability to make future business decisions. Everything connects to everything else. Why do most people struggle with systems thinking? Because it requires seeing long-term connections rather than immediate cause and effect. It means understanding that financial success comes from orchestrating multiple elements over time rather than optimizing individual components. The ninth phase involves developing comfort with uncertainty while maintaining confidence in your approach. Before wealth starts growing, you must learn to navigate ambiguity without abandoning your systematic strategy. Financial markets fluctuate. Economic conditions change. Investment strategies that worked in the past might not work in the future. Most people respond to this uncertainty by either avoiding investments entirely or constantly changing strategies based on recent events. Wealthy people develop a different relationship with uncertainty. They understand that volatility and unpredictability are inherent features of wealth building, not problems to solve. They maintain consistent approaches while adapting to changing conditions without abandoning their fundamental principles. This psychological stance allows them to stay invested during market downturns, continue building businesses during economic uncertainty, and maintain long-term perspective during short-term volatility. They're not immune to emotional responses, but they don't let emotions drive their financial decisions. What enables this emotional regulation? Understanding that uncertainty works in your favor when you're building wealth over long time frames. Market volatility creates buying opportunities. Economic cycles create business opportunities. Change creates opportunities for those prepared to adapt systematically rather than react emotionally. The final transformation happens when you understand that wealth building is ultimately about identity evolution rather than money accumulation. Before wealth starts growing consistently, you must become the type of person who naturally makes wealth-building decisions rather than someone who forces themselves to follow financial rules. This identity shift happens gradually through consistent behavior change. As you make systematic decisions aligned with wealth building, your self-concept evolves. You start seeing yourself as an investor, entrepreneur, or wealth builder rather than just an employee or consumer. This new identity makes wealth-building behaviors feel natural rather than forced. You don't need willpower to invest regularly because investing aligns with who you are. You don't struggle with spending decisions because your natural inclination supports your long-term goals. Think about how identity shapes behavior in other areas. Athletes don't force themselves to exercise because they see themselves as athletic people. Musicians don't force themselves to practice because they identify as musicians. Similarly, wealthy people don't force themselves to make good financial decisions because those decisions align with their identity as wealth builders. How do you know when this identity shift is complete? When you stop thinking about wealth building as something you do and start experiencing it as something you are. When financial discipline feels natural rather than restrictive. When you automatically think long-term rather than having to remind yourself to consider future consequences. This identity evolution creates a self-reinforcing cycle. As you make decisions aligned with wealth building, you strengthen your identity as a wealth builder. As your identity strengthens, making wealth-building decisions becomes easier and more natural. Over time, this creates momentum that makes wealth accumulation almost inevitable. But here's what most people miss about this process. The identity shift must happen before you see significant financial results, not after. You must see yourself as a wealth builder when your net worth is still modest. You must think like an investor before your portfolio produces substantial returns. You must develop systems thinking before your systems produce obvious results. Why do most people struggle with this sequence? Because they wait for external validation before changing their internal identity. They think they'll develop investor mindset after they make money investing, or they'll think like entrepreneurs after their business succeeds. But it works the opposite way. The identity shift enables the results, not the other way around. Understanding this hidden phase before wealth starts growing gives you tremendous advantage. While others focus on tactics, strategies, and specific investments, you're working on the psychological foundation that determines long-term success. While others chase financial shortcuts, you're building the behavioral patterns that create sustained wealth over time. Remember that behavioral patterns compound. Small, consistent decisions aligned with wealth building create exponential results over decades. Identity compounds as you repeatedly act in ways aligned with your financial goals. Time compounds when you maintain systematic approaches over extended periods. The hidden phase before wealth starts growing isn't about finding secret investment strategies or discovering unknown opportunities. It's about psychological transformation that enables you to recognize opportunities, make systematic decisions, and maintain consistent behavior over time, regardless of external circumstances. Wealth isn't built through intensity or dramatic changes. Wealth is built through clear thinking, systematic behavior, and patient consistency over years and decades. The people who understand this hidden psychological foundation create financial freedom not because they're smarter or luckier, but because they've developed the internal systems that naturally generate wealth over time. Financial independence isn't ultimately about speed or shortcuts. It's about clarity, stability, and systematic consistency that compounds into extraordinary results over time. And there you have it, the hidden phase before wealth starts growing. If you found value today, I highly recommend watching my next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to leave your comment below, especially if this video made you think differently. I appreciate your support more than you know. Until next time, stay consistent, stay patient, and stay winning. See you in the next one, Money Magician.